All right, well, welcome everyone. We really appreciate you joining on this very special day today. There was a lot of activity going on, but we're just glad that you can be part of this. Today, we're going to continue our conversation. Last year, we had a series of webinars focused on AI and planning lessons and units. And we're going to continue to hear from David Graeber today about harnessing AI in education. So we're going to do a little bit of reflection of what we've learned thus far, but we're also going to have some interaction and some conversation here today. So on behalf of the STEM Leadership Alliance and the STEM Happens Network, we are thrilled that you were able to join us today. And David, just take it away.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Appreciate it. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see everybody tonight, or whatever time of day it is where you are viewing this, if you're viewing it via video. So we are, as Kelly said, going to take a step back to take a couple steps forward and then plan even further ahead for our next few steps. So again, the overarching theme has been harnessing AI in education and how we, in this sort of ever-evolving landscape of technology, can harness the tools that we have before us in both, a school setting, a planning and personal setting, and harness the tools that we have that are actually available to us publicly and within reach. So we're going to talk about how we can transform our work with this technology. So we're going to talk about lesson planning. That's our step back. Last time we met, we talked about how we can leverage. We built a lesson plan. We used AI. We looked at different versions of AI tools. We looked at how we could develop lesson plans and get feedback on those lesson plans and began scratching the surface on that area. And today we're going to take a deeper dig into thinking about how once we use AI, which we will rehash for anybody who's new, once we develop the lesson and execute the lesson, how can we as administrators use AI to enhance the observation process and construct feedback for our teachers, while teachers also simultaneously can create their own method of feedback on their lesson plans using the AI agents. So we're really going to take a deeper look at how the whole cycle of teaching and learning takes place from a planning perspective. We know that lesson planning is the critical lever in getting kids to move forward and grow. We know that we have a meeting place of technology, physical learning taking place in classrooms, and we know that we need to use all the tools that we have as educators to personalize learning for each and every individual learner in our classrooms. And we looked at how we could use AI to develop these lesson plans. And so we took a look at how we could personalize, how we could develop activities and resources, and how we can enhance our total teaching experience by using AI in lesson planning, right? Which we're going to do again, just to take that step back, like I said, and revisit the tools where we'll engage with developing graphics for lessons and enhancing student engagement through developing questioning, improving knowledge retention through looking at assessment. And then we're going to take a look forward at looking at lesson observation. Okay, so now I'm going to quickly exit out of the PowerPoint like we did last time, and I'm going to hop over into, today we're going to flip between two different pieces. We're going to use both Copilot and the more oft used globally, the ChatGPT agent, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to just take that step back real quick and think about how we used last time the AI tools, chatbots, to develop a lesson plan in nick of time, understanding and revisiting the notion that our AI tools oftentimes can hallucinate, can provide false information, can provide the wrong information, can provide uncontextualized information. Okay, so we have to read the work. We have to look at what the chatbots are sending back to us. That is as part of the code of ethics of using AI. That's going to be laced throughout everything that comes forward. All right. So the first thing we need to do is think about how we prompt. This is a big part of what we talked about over the last couple of sessions, right? So the first prompt that we normally see people use are things like this, right? We see people use quick and easy prompt saying, hey, I need a lesson plan designed for a topic to help understand climate change. We're working on Unit 6 in our Amplify series on how Earth climate is changing. And we need to develop an introductory lesson that's going to lead to you lead us into the bigger unit on Earth's changing climate and Amplify, right? So I'm going to take a look here at how quickly this develops our lesson, just like it did the last time. 6th through 8th grade, 60 minutes. Students will understand the basic concepts of climate change, its causes, and its initial effects on Earth. Materials we need, the outline, it's properly timed, discussion starter. And we need to make sure that teachers that are utilizing AI tools don't just stop here and say, wow, this has all these components. This is great. Quickly zoom through, right? Look at this. There's the assessment. There's the homework. Wrap up and reflections. Got an exit ticket. Cool. All right. Well, let's go through it really quickly with a keen eye for how we're going to get the best work out of our students, right? Let's see. So we immediately know we got 60 minutes. Well, my class block is about 45, so I'm going to think about that for a second. I'm going to think about whether I want this to be a 45-minute lesson or I want this to work through 2 different periods, or maybe a series of different periods as this gets a little bit deeper, right? My objective, the students will understand the basic concepts of climate change, its causes, and its initial effects on Earth. That's sound. These are the different materials. Short video. Now I have to go out and get a video. So you know what? No handouts with greenhouse effect. This diagram. Well, you know what? I'm gonna add some prompts here. I'm gonna add another prompt, and that prompt is, you can simply type it in as well. But for lack of time here, we'll make sure we have some prompts, right? So now this is what I put in. I need this lesson plan to include a quick link to the video clip. Look at this. Gives me the video. Gives me the graphics. Here are those resources. Perfect. Ask me to look at the sources. I can source check it. Look to the right, YouTube, NASA climate change. I can go dig a little deeper into those things so I can fact check all of this information, right? Very important as a teacher working with these tools, presenting students with these tools to use ultimately, that we are doing the research and making sure the information that we're providing is legitimate. So this time I will consider NASA to be legitimate source, just to show you. All right, so let's go back up to our lesson plan. I also noticed here that it wants me to, divide the class into small groups, but this isn't really specific to my class. This is kind of just generic. So what I really want to do here is I really want to differentiate, because I know that my principal, when the principal comes in, is going to look for differentiation. And I know that it's best for my students because I have a very diverse classroom. In fact, my class is 31 students, 13 of them have IEPs, which means it's an ICT classroom. We need some clear graphic organizers, to scaffold work. We have 8 students who are ELLs, English language learners, 3 are beginning, 5 are progressing, and 10 general education students in the classroom. There is a special ed teacher in the room with the IEP students, right? So this is a little bit more information for my tool. Let's see what it does. Okay, it's starting to kick the lesson back. Oh, wow, look at this. So there's the scaffolded support, provide sentence starters and word banks. I immediately know I'm going to want some of those, right? So I'm going to dig deeper. Let's see, we'll just keep looking, see. Okay, I have the diagrams up above. Let's say, okay, please provide me with sentence starters and word banks. So I can keep going, as you can see, and it keeps making my life more and more efficient as a teacher. And it really allows me to not only analyze what's out there in the tool, but also allows me to analyze my own thinking and my own shaping of the lesson that's best for my students' progress, right? You can see connecting the dots. Now it's much further dug in here, right? Exit ticket. It's got assessment piece in there. The piece that I really needed to think about before I started planning all this is, well, I know that we have a rubric, right? And I know our rubric looks something like this, right? This is, a combination of Marzano and Danielson, simplified, to really think about the key levers that we look at as teachers, no matter what district or state or country that we're in, right? We know that we're looking at the planning aspect of our work, planning and preparation. We know that we're looking at how is our work and our planning engaging students in the classroom. And we know that we need to think about the questions that we're going to ask to drive the pursuit of knowledge or the pursuit of understanding of particular concepts, no matter what subject it may be. In this case, science. In this case, we also know that we need to understand, do our students, are they learning what we're teaching? Are they learning from each other? Are they learning from us? Are we learning from them? Is there learning going on? And how do we know? Right. And so these are the four key levers that we always look at. And so for today's topic, and you can adapt this to your own district, your own state, your own country, wherever your own classroom, wherever you might be, the notion that we're guided by a rubric when we're working for best practice, right? And obviously, and hopefully in your buildings, people are coaching in towards, the best style of pedagogy for your students in your location. So this is the rubric we're guided by, right? So close that back out, back to here. Okay, so here's our sentence starters and word banks, right? Vocabulary cards. So the lesson can keep getting more and more detailed. Now I might, like I said before, move it from 60 minutes to 3 days, 2 days, whatever it might be. But I know I'm being observed, so I know I need to go in here and sort of figure out what's going to be the highest leverage component for my students on that day, as per where we are in the unit, right? So this is exactly how the AI tool can really, really move our thinking around how we're delivering instruction, the structure in which we're delivering instruction, okay? And we can continue on, right? I can keep going, right? I need, there aren't really high-level questions in here. I didn't think about that at the moment. So I'm going to ask it now to also layer in a lesson plan. I'm going to ask it to layer in scaffolded questions for me, right? So let's see. There's IEP students for L students progressing, for general education students, right? That's level 1. So I now have a script of questions that I can use as a teacher, right? So I'm arming myself for any line of inquiry that happens based on this work that happens, right? So when I go back into the lesson plan and I think about what the group activity is, right? They're going to fill in this graphic organizer. They're going to develop a diagram, right? They're going to develop a diagram, use a diagram to develop an explanation. And then, this is very generic. So maybe I need, can we develop an activity that is more interactive and asks students to apply knowledge from this lesson? Let's see what it does, right? I can get less and less specific as I'm discussing with the bot. It's learning from me, right? So let's see what it's asking us to do here. Create realistic solutions, chart paper, index, timer, graphic organizer. Okay. Briefly review the concepts from the lesson. Explain the students will work in small groups. Once each group has to develop a solution for climate change based on what they learn, right? Again, my lesson's getting longer over a couple of days. So the inquiry line that students, so wow, there's a lot going on here. This is really rich. This is loaded with different things and strategies and ways for me to meet all of the things that it means to provide good teaching in order for students to use the inquiry tools that they have before them to have some really good learning. Go back here, right? And we'll think about now. I'm going to take a quick moment, really quick, and see if anybody has any questions, right? I'm going to unshare for a second and see if we have any hands. I know some people might have come in. If anybody has any questions, you can also put them in the chat. You can shoot them via email as always. But again, what we just took was that step back and revisiting how we utilize the tools in front of us that are there, that we know that students are using, that we know that teachers are using. And we really want to make sure that we understand them and that we're making sure those folks are using them, A, ethically, and B, making sure they're using the tools appropriately and effectively. They're making sure they're reading them and adapting them and not just going with the first thing that it spits out. At this time, I don't see any hands or questions. Please continue to feel free to ask by raising a hand. I'm going to go back to sharing, and we are going. All right. So we saw all these things. Now, lesson observation. We're going to talk in a minute as if this lesson has gone in play, it's been observed, okay? But what is the role of the principal in observation, or the assistant principal, or the administrator in the building that's doing the observation, in the district that may be doing the observation, right? So we know that a principal or an administrator's understanding of the tool that's being used to evaluate, or the tool that's being used to professionally develop more appropriately teaching, that's one tool, right? That's part of their role, is to really understand that tool and really understand how to apply it in providing feedback to improve the teaching and learning. Excuse me. We know that we can use AI support. There's lots of tools out there that are, there's, cost tools, there's cost-effective tools, there's free tools. But we know that these tools can help us leverage, in particular, we can use AI to leverage these tools so that we can gain insights into the effectiveness of teaching and learning, right? Can you imagine when you can start to use AI to look at teaching practice under certain areas of inquiry by looking at data analytics and plugging in and loading documents in, and really, really sharpening your AI tools' knowledge of your world and your school and your teachers, right? It can really provide a deep insight. And for now, what we want to think about is, how can we, there are tools out there to analyze classroom video, so we can take video and upload tools and upload them into the AI, and the AI will help provide feedback on the video. Those things are cost tools, right? The engagement levels are the tools that we have, the platforms that we have that can track and report on the engagement levels by entering information, by, as you can see, uploading documentation, uploading lesson plans, uploading student work, even to see what the engagement level is, right? And they can present, and AI can provide data-driven reports around how to provide feedback and how to provide teacher growth reports, or how to provide student growth reports for that matter. But the observation tools are out there. And again, they're at three different levels, right? They're at the cost levels where we have to pay for them. They're at the cost effective levels where perhaps our school district might, have access to them already. For example, Microsoft 365, which we'll take a look at in a moment, which has the built-in tool, Copilot, okay? And we also need to think about the free tools that we're using today that everybody's using, so we need to be versed in those. So AI can really, like I said, identify strengths in areas for growth by using its analytical approach to the data that we provide it and the prompts that we use to drive it, right? To really help sharpen and make it more efficient, our practice, especially our use of time, right? So we're going to hop back out now. We're going to go back into the chatbot, right? So what we're going to do is, remember we've got this rubric, right? So we'll go back to the rubric, okay, and we will take this rubric, okay. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to copy it, right? I'm going to copy this rubric, paste it over here. Now, first I'm going to go back to my, right? I'm going to say, please apply the following rubric to this lesson plan. Look at this. Took the rubric and applied it, right? And here's the rubric applied to the climate change lesson plan. And it provides a summary at the end. Right? I'm going to say, can you please adapt this rubric to speak directly to the lesson plan? So I can get more specific, right? Look how it's changing the rubric in front of us. It's moving faster than I can move. But it's rewriting it right in front of us, right? Okay. Now assess the lesson as if it were delivered, please. Be diverse in your, I can ask it, right? Be diverse in your analysis. Look what it's doing. Proficient, excellent, proficient, excellent, proficient, excellent. Now I have to read this, like I said, just like as a teacher has to read the lesson plan that it's developed. I, as the administrator, have to go through this line by line to make sure. So it took the time away from me having to write this, but I still have to go back to make sure it's specific to exactly what I saw and what's written down on the lesson plan paper, right? I have to make sure, right, that all of this is accurate. Now we know, because we developed this together, that it is, that it matches, right? Sometimes it won't. So this is proficient with elements of excellence. The lesson effectively met the objectives, right? But the one thing this didn't do, right? Look what it didn't do. It didn't really give feedback, did it, right? So what can I ask it to do? I can ask it to please provide both next steps and growth opportunities, right? Increase more targeted scaffoldings. Look at this. Expanded wait time for responses, more real world examples and case studies. Right now I could know, you know what, I'm going to adapt this because I know in our pre-planning and even in our post-planning conference that these were actually next steps that were coming. The lesson was over a series of days, not just for the 45 minutes. So my teacher now I know is not only planning for the moment, but is also planning both forward and thinking about where they're coming from. So that tells me a lot about the reflection that my teacher's putting in. So, you know, by really looking at this, it not only, you know, makes my time more efficiently used about thinking about the teaching practice rather than how long I need to spend to write these, right, and have and deliver them, but it really gets me to thinking. So, I mean, this all just took us 25 minutes to develop not only a lesson, but to think about how that lesson could be better and how I, as a leader, could provide feedback to that lesson, right? Isn't that amazing? So what else can I do with this? I'm going to go back and we're going to think about, so we talked about identifying strengths and areas for growth, excuse me. Now we're really going to talk about feedback, right? So we know that feedback needs to be constructive. So we just saw that we had to dive a little deeper into the AI's response. We know that they can provide quick insights, but we still need to apply the human touch. We still need to apply the context of, you know, our specific situations of the person's dynamic, right? The relationship between class and student. But most importantly, it allows us to be timely, right? Teachers need feedback immediately. They don't need feedback a week later after 6 meetings and 4 fire drills, right? Which we know happens because we know school happens. We know that things get in the way. So the quicker we can provide that feedback in a more timely fashion, and the more actionable that feedback is, that will allow us to have a positive relationship between teacher and leader, so that we can make it less about the evaluation component and more about the development component. It becomes vital to not only provide the feedback in a timely manner and have it be actionable, but also provide the next steps that are tangible and provide a forum for that professional development, right? So we have to think about not only how, right, we can use these tools, right, but how they can also help us create the next steps. To go back out again, go back into the, actually, I'm going to pause for a moment, stop share, and see if anybody has any questions this time. Anybody have any questions at this time? No? We'll go back in. Now we can say, okay, we know that the teacher needs to integrate more technology, incorporate formative assessments into group activities, enhance peer interaction, collaboration. All this stuff is true. Foster deeper critical thinking. Okay, we already saw. Okay. Where's the highest leverage feedback here that I can direct? Because we know time is limited. We know resources are limited. We know prep periods are limited. We know teachers have limited amount of time for this kind of work. So what's going to be the highest leverage point, right? Now, that could be different in any building, in any district, in any country, in any school, any classroom. Okay. And from this list of different pieces of leverage, I'm going to look at incorporating formative assessments into group activities, right? So here for this teacher, let's see, encourage students to reflect on their learning during group activities at the end of the lesson to provide more formative data for adjustment. This will help the teacher stay informed. Actually, use the group activities to exit tickets, formative assessments during the lesson to gauge, understand. Exit tickets. Well, not in love with exit tickets as a building leader. Is there better? Okay, so let's see here. I would like you to design a brief professional learning experience for this teacher to use something other than exit tickets to check for student understanding at the end of this lesson. Let's see what it says. Here we go. Exploring alternative. Okay, let's see here. Professional learning experience
You're
using
not sharing your screen. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
There we go.
There we go. That better?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you're welcome. Thank you. So I would like to design a brief professional learning experience for this teacher to use something other than exit tickets to check for student understanding at the end of this lesson. So what did it do? It created a professional learning experience using alternative strategies to check for student understanding. Introduce practice alternative strategies for checking student understanding at the end of a lesson, focusing on methods beyond exit tickets. So I could do this for multiple teachers. It could be on my Monday PD, my Tuesday PD, my, whenever the profession, my professional development day, right? This could be something that I provide the coaches with an opportunity to even modify it even further for their liking or their audience, right? But the idea that this tool was able to just generate a professional learning experience really helps me in the direction that I want to take my building, right? So here I want more formative, better, stronger formative assessment. That's one of the key highest leverage points we know in the teaching and learning experience, right? And so here we have understanding the need for varied methods. So let's see, exploring alternative strategies, quick writes, think, pair, share, pair feedback, exit polls, digital surveys. But what about I can say here, what as a coach using this tool, I can say, What about a knowledge carousel? That's another good one, right? So it's adding that in. So it's right there. It is. It adds that in. So I've now customized it for a professional learning experience. Well, this leads me to saying, well, now as a professional principal, like, so I can start to develop my professional development plan and so on and so on. So that the way that the AI tool can affect it, I mean, I want you to again think about it. In 31 minutes that we've been together, okay, not only we role played as a teacher, reflecting back on how to use this tool for lesson planning, and this is just ChatGPT. We're going to go over to Copilot in a moment, right? And we're going to see how they could even interact, right? 31 minutes. Then we also, obviously there was some time in real world where we, did the observation or really, went in and looked at the lesson plan, read the lesson plan, considered what was happening. And then we went back in and gave feet. We got an analysis of the lesson plan based on a rubric that was developed by the tool. And we also were able to provide feedback to the lesson, to the teacher, and then even further, use the tool effectively and efficiently to quickly develop a professional learning experience that I, as a school leader, can now use to influence how I develop my professional learning plan from a comprehensive planning standpoint, right? So the way that you can leverage this tool goes on and on and on. So I'm going to stop my share again for a sec. Actually, no, I'm not. What I'm going to do here now quickly is show you. So for example, let's see, we're going to step back now. We're going to go back to the lesson plan, right? So I'm going to take this lesson plan. Now I'm going to say quickly to the chatbot, can you please neatly rewrite the lesson plan considering all of these factors? Look, I make type, my keep typing is terrible, but watch what happens. AI can still adjust for that, right? So it's going to recreate the lesson outline, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and copy this as it's going. I'm going to show you something. Now, let's say your school district uses, this is ChatGPT. This is probably the widest used tool, but let's say your school district uses Microsoft 365, right? Okay. And you have access to Microsoft Copilot, right? So I want to start a new chat with Copilot. And these tools, as you can see, are very intuitive. They're very simple. And I'm going to say to Copilot, can you please take the lesson plan that I am about to share with you and develop a PowerPoint? Let's see what happens. Right. So now I'm going to take that lesson, put it in there, see what happens. And look at this. It starts to lay out the slides for me, right? Oh boy. So I can now, as a teacher or as a team leader for a grade, right? Or as a team member in a teaching group on a grade level, whatever it might be, I can take this tool one step even further. Watch this. I'm going to go to PowerPoint itself. I'm going to start a new presentation. Again, I'm within my 365 environment. I just got slides. And I'm going to use, if you'll notice, there's a little Copilot button. I click on the Copilot, create a presentation create presentation about. Okay, so what do I want a presentation about? Let's go back to my lesson. Let's pull the objective. All right, let's pull the objective. Go here. Activating. Let's see what happens. Count while this is happening. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and so on. So you can see 17, 18, 20 seconds. And look at this. Yeah, teachers like to use PowerPoints, right? Imagine going back to the planning process, how I can further use the AI tools, right? I can now use PowerPoint to change the design of every slide like I might normally, right? More effective. It even provides notes at the bottom, as you can see, right? So as a teacher now, I've taken the lesson plan that I created, that I self-evaluated, that I had evaluated, that I got feedback on. I developed a PowerPoint incorporating all the changes. So now that when I deliver this lesson again, or even if one of my colleagues wants to deliver this lesson, wow, I've really gone through a learning process, not only using the tools that were in front of me, but also connecting two different tools and connecting my practice with my pedagogy and my student work. I could take student work and add it in here if I analyze data. I can also have conversations with either my coach or my assistant principal or my principal around the content. Everybody's just way more knowledgeable about what's happening and what students are learning. So as you can see, I can use these tools interactively between one another by cutting and pasting. I can use them separately. They do, basically, I mean, here, again, I can say, some of them do visuals greater. Can you create me a visual representation of climate change? Let's see what it does. It's generating the image for me. Come back to that in a minute. We'll go back to ChatGPT. ChatGPT you can save, look at all the different stuff. It saves all of your searches, easy to navigate, right? This is taking long, so sometimes we stop, right?
David, I can't see it. We can't see it. You're not sharing the screen.
Try it again. I think it just paused out for a minute.
Yeah, that's weird. Okay, sharing again. Back on,
There you
Carlos?
go. Yes.
Thanks, Carlos.
You're
So anyway, you didn't miss anything. Thanks. Look, having a hiccup, not creating the image, right? So I need a graphic image that represents climate change, right? Because remember, one of the student assignments was to do this, right? So imagine if you're a student now, because I'm going to start to lead us into the next time, right? Now I can tell that it's thinking and drawing. What's wrong with this problem? Why is this taking so long? Does anybody know? Is it something wrong with AI or is it something wrong with what I did? I think it's that my prompt isn't strong enough, right? Please provide me with a graphic that depicts how climate has been changing the planet, right? Because look what it gave me. It didn't really give me, let's see. So let's get it to, it'll take a minute. Again, just provides response after response. And when they're not good responses, you've got to keep digging. You've got to improve your prompting. I like to do this. I like to create prompts and save them so that I can constantly use those prompts, right? Right. See, it's not really it's showing me how to use the graphic, right?
David, have you seen that there's different tools between Copilot, ChatGPT, all of them that are better with graphs and charts and pictures than others?
Yeah, I find that Gemini, that's a good question, Kelly. I find that Gemini probably has the best, well, part of the issue is that the different engines, they're differentiating themselves, right? So these are the chat bots that deal mostly in text, right? That's why you'll notice that if I do, when I ask this to create a PowerPoint for me, right? If I go back up to the top, where was it? If I asked it to create a PowerPoint for me in here, right? It just gave me the outline, the slides, right? So I had to go into the actual PowerPoint itself to do that, right? So they're starting to differentiate the way the tools are, and I'm imagining that's for a pricing scale, right? So I know that, for example, with Gemini, you can buy the Gemini, and then you can buy the Gemini that has more enhanced imaging, and then there are specific tools that are just image generators. So they're starting to really differentiate. So in my experience, the chatbots all are kind of similar, right? And like I'll show you, we'll use we'll go to the ChatGPT image generator, right? So we create an image that depicts global climate change. See, I don't have plus. I have to upgrade after 9:56 p.m. I've reached my limit for using GPTs. This is the limit. This is how this is the AI revolution in front of us. So I pay for Copilot, right? And so let's say image generation. So we're gonna do another one right now. Watch this. We'll do just to answer your question, Kelly. We're gonna use Poe. I'm gonna share Poe. Can everybody see Poe?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. As you can see, I've been using this is the one we've been using. We used a lot, right? So I can go here to image generation and look, it tells me, you see what I'm talking about? Subscriber access, official. Like, I can pick one, and I can go on them, and they'll say how much, you want to pay. So it's become a different thing, right? Can you make images? Sorry, let's see. We'll go to my regular bot, right? Can you make images? Okay. What do we want an image of? We want an image of a chart that depicts climate change. I don't create images or charts or data visualizations. I can understand. So you see again, right? You have to add add a subscription. You have to go ahead and, right? So
David, how about Canvas?
you can try Canvas, sure.
And another thing on the slide, I didn't see the time. And the lesson, it had the time for each activity. And the slides, it didn't show the minutes, the time.
Right. Now that's probably because, hold on, let me stop sharing this screen. We'll go back. So right, so that's exactly the point, Carlos, right? You have to go back and go. It's not just like, let me use AI. AI is going to do the job for me. I have to interact with it and I have to fine tune it, right? And so, like, for example, you're right. This PowerPoint doesn't have the times in it, right? Share back again. Right. Right. You're right. This PowerPoint doesn't have the times in it, right? So let's see. It has limitations, right? So
But maybe if you ask to do the timing,
yeah,
maybe it shows.
that's right. Because again, one of the things we've been talking about is how we prompt it. See, I can't do that. I can answer general purpose questions. It's like a really interesting, I guarantee you in 2 weeks we'll be able to do that, right? So, what I probably should have done is when I prompted it originally, right, is I should have gone in and said, hey, create a presentation activating prior knowledge, please time the slides, right? Now, what I can do is I can work around that is when I do the slideshow, right, I can time the slides. So when I practice it, I can set that up. So I can still use the old school methodology. But it's important to note that like these chat GPTs, they run out. So people use them, they don't, then they stop using them. Sometimes they come back to them, sometimes they don't, right? You have to, that's why I reference the different tiers, right? Like, so Copilot is one that's built into Microsoft 365, which I know, and I use that one as an example because I know a lot of institutions use that, right? Google has Gemini. Now, I don't know if systems that use, different school systems that use Google products or Google tools have bought into the Google Gemini platform, but you have to pay in to use these tools. Where this is headed, I don't know. But what I do know is that, we are, in this space where we're seeing, and I definitely want to solidify the notion that we're seeing that not only can AI really make our work more efficient, okay, but we can't just depend on AI alone. We still have to use the thinking brain. We still have to use the collaborative brain, right? The collaborative work of people in teams, right? On grade teams or in ILTs or, instructional leadership teams or whatever they might be, to really suss out and discuss and find the things that aren't there that we need to add. So it's this combination, right? Machine meets mind, right? But it really saves us an enormous amount of time. It's got all of these tools that don't always work perfectly. We have to prompt it differently. We have to learn just as it has to learn us. All right. And as we move forward, the tools are going to get better and better. Right now, Copilot, like you would think with all these tools that I could say to this, hey, you created the PowerPoint for me. Can you now go time the slides? But it won't allow me to do that. I have to go back and create a brand new PowerPoint, right? So like I'd have to go back out, close this one. I'll share, I'll do it again. And then start basically from scratch, right? And say, okay, so I go to create a blank presentation, go to my Copilot. All right, go back to my climate change lesson. Basic concepts of climate change, causes, effects, and solutions. Create a presentation about basic concepts. Please time the slides, right? So and so on. Let's see. Yeah. But you still have to do that, right? So it's still not perfected. But the next time, like the last time we developed a rubric together, it didn't rewrite the rubric in real time in front of us. It had to rethink and go back. So these tools are constantly evolving and constantly, getting faster and faster and updating. And the more you prompt with it, the more it learns you and the more you learn how to use it, right? Look at this. So let's see if it times the slides. Let's see if it did that for us, Carlos. All right, I don't think so. Let's see. Let's go to the notes. Looks like it did not time the slides for us, right? So there, still have to use human activity to time the slides, right? So you know how to do that, right? When we run this, we can time it. We can use the tools. There's a timer down here. All right, turn subtitles off, turn camera off. I forget where the timer is exactly, but all right. You can go in there and just do it manually. But the notion that these tools are evolving and changing every 5 minutes and expanding and costing, are things that we need to think about, because I'm going to, leading us into the next time we come together, right? We've talked about the teacher. We've talked about the teacher using these tools to plan with. We've talked about the efficiency model. We still need to fact check it. We still need to go through it. We've talked a little bit now about how administrators can utilize this to not only provide feedback, customize feedback, but also develop personal growth plans. Not only develop the personal growth plan, but also develop the professional development plan that can be used across multiple different groups of teachers. Now we need to think about, and really going back to the very beginning, we know kids are using this. We know parents aren't able to necessarily keep up with their kids. We know teachers are learning to keep up with the kids around this, but need to be enabled to do so and encouraged to do so, right? And we know that we need the student and the parent angle to really be covered. So when we come back together, we're really going to be thinking about how students are thinking around this, how they're using it, how we need to help parents at the home level, and how we need to connect the parent and the school and triangulate between the parent, the teacher, and the school, right? And the student. Think about how these tools are being used and how we can see very clearly that even though these tools are amazingly efficient, and even though they save us time and they allow us to use our time, our limited time in classrooms and in school buildings more effectively, we still need to see the human interaction. And we still need our kids to see that there's an ethic component to this. And we still need our families to see what their kids are using it for and how they can not stop their kids from using AI, but how they can support a healthy use of AI and an ethical use of AI. So with that, I'm going to open the field to questions.
So David, one question that was put into the chat box was about a step-by-step guide on how to access and use Copilot in PowerPoint. Because I know we went through that really quick, but if there's anything additional we could get afterwards, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And you can even, it works just like, so it's more complicated because it's not just a chat bot, right? Like, so if you will quickly, let's go back here and we'll start a new chat, right? So we'll just go to Copilot. So like when you come into Copilot, right? When you sign in, look what it says at the bottom. First of all, Copilot uses AI, check for mistakes.
You are not sharing the screen, David.
It keeps dying out on me. I'm sorry, guys. There we go. Right.
There you go.
Right. So boom, look at Copilot, right? This is Copilot. When when you're in your 365, you can just go to Copilot. And this is what it looks like. Right down here. Gives me my history, right? All the different things we've had today and in the past. I can start a new chat or upload an image, or whether it be a document, whatever it might be. But let's just start a new chat, right? So we go to here. We'll do exactly like we did with ChatGPT earlier, right? Same thing. In the space, I say, I need a lesson plan designed for a topic to help understand climate change, an introductory lesson that will lead into a bigger unit on Earth's changing climate. And let's see what it does, right? So it literally does the same thing. This one seems a little more intuitive, as it gave me a link to the video immediately, as opposed to me having to ask for it. Right? Climate change basics video. Let's see what happens when I do that, right? About to be navigated to NASA. Again, page not found, right? So look, it didn't provide me with a good link. So I'm going to need a better link. So I'm going to have to engage just like I did with ChatGPT. Okay. Where it gets, different depending on whether your organization utilizes, Microsoft 365 or not, right? Within the apps themselves, right? So in PowerPoint, as you noticed, when I begin a new presentation, the Copilot there is in the chat bar, right? So I'll show you. If I go to Microsoft Word and I create a blank document, I have my Copilot over here, right? We can look at that in Word, right? I can say, ask me anything about this document. There's nothing in the document right now, right? So up here it says create a short math quiz for a 5th grader, right? Create a list of ideas for science projects. What do I want Copilot to draft? I want Copilot to design me a lesson plan. Let's see what happens. Look at this, right? So it's just a matter of the platform that you're using, right? Obviously, with a tool like Microsoft, it's integrated within its product, right? ChatGPT is its own chat world and has advantages as its its AI might be better than again, I'm not the best judge of, which is the best product out there. They all do the job for me. Some I like better for other things, but ultimately I use them interchangeably because at the end of the day, what I'm asking it to do requires me to interact with it. So, the one thing that's been frustrating for me is that I can't seem to find one that generates strong imagery without paying extra cost, right? At this time. I don't know where that's headed. It'll probably be something that's a component of free because they have to catch up to get their product. So that, the game is expanding right in front of our eyes. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit, does it? And that was Stanley, but I don't know if you can hear me, but
Yes.
good.
Okay.
Like, I mean, just for example, right? Like in my Zoom window right now, right? I don't know if everybody's on Zoom. I'm assuming everybody's on Zoom with me, right? So AI Companion, it says AI Companion, where I could ask meeting questions. Let's see. I'm going to click on, I don't know if you can't see within it, but I'm going to ask meeting questions. Here, like, I'll just throw out a question. Look at that. I just AI.
You're not sharing, David.
No, I'm not. Just look in the
Is-
chat.
Is that because you have a paid um Zoom account that you have the AI companion, or is
No,
this
I don't have a paid Zoom account, so no.
I think this is the first time I see the AI companion in
It's the first time I've seen it too.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is that all of these different products are beginning to integrate the AI into themselves,
Yeah,
right? So
David, it's right. Just a quick thing. People add about the AI companion. I believe whether it's free or not free, that you need to you can activate it on your Zoom because I've used it in some other things. So even though some people said they didn't see it, if they look on their Zoom, they can activate it. So every time they use the Zoom, they have the AI companion.
Okay, thank you. I have to go into my settings then.
yeah, like here, look at my screen right now. I don't know where does it show the Zoom screen or does it just show my desktop?
Just your desktop.
Yeah, I can't seem to figure out how to share my Zoom screen. But basically what it came back with was, yes, David Graeber's name was mentioned by other meeting participants, specifically Kelly List Wells mentioned David Graeber's name when introducing him at the beginning of the meeting. She said, we're going to continue to hear from David Graeber today about harnessing AI in education. So, these tools are becoming more and more robust. They're becoming more and more widespread. All of the major app producers are building them into them. As you can see, like, so again, I don't have Google Gemini. So in here, like, this is just my Google Gmail, right? When I go in here, you'll see how it has the Gemini link, right? Okay, I'm not sharing my screen, am I?
No.
That time, that one's on me. Sorry, guys. Okay, so here you see how in my this is my general Gmail, right? The link to the Zoom in my email. If I go here to the dots where all my apps are for Google, Gemini, right? So Gemini has a free component, but it has a pay component, Gemini Advanced, right? This one I know for sure only goes to a certain, like ChatGPT only goes to a certain amount of like chats that you can have with it before you have to wait till the next day. It's not totally restricted. It's just a daily limit that you have on some of these. But as you can see, I've used this one too. I dabbled with an account in this one for a little while just to test it out. You'll notice that when you go into your, where's my apps, right? So when you go into like Google Docs, create a blank document. Okay, got it. Right. They haven't, so you'll notice they haven't quite, like, where's the AI tool? They have Gemini, right? Like, where's the Gemini tab? I probably have to add the extension or etc. But again, all these tools are slowly unraveling into themselves. They're getting better, they're getting sharper, but they only can work for you. And when I say you, I mean individually, by the way you prompt it. It gets smarter, adapts to you, the questions you ask. So the simpler the question, the simpler response. You're gonna have to dial down. So, these tools just keep getting richer and richer. And I know that we're out of time now, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So,
David, before you go, I want to say thank you for everything. Can you please review the lesson based on Proficient, based on Danielson and Manzano?
yeah.
Please, because I skipped that part right there.
Yeah, no problem. So
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I'll go here, right? So remember when we submitted the lesson, right? You saw the rubric, right?
Yes.
So here's the, I'm not sharing again.
And remember, Carlos, Kelly's going to be sending the recording to all you guys so you can share with your teachers.
Okay,
So,
great.
okay, but David will go over.
Yeah, I'll
with
show it to you
now.
right now. It's all good.
Yes,
So
exactly, right there.
yeah, so hold on, let me go to the top of it, right? It had a lot to say. So okay, here's a comprehensive assessment of the lesson plan as if it were delivered based on the rubric. And you saw the rubric, right?
Yes.
It started with planning and preparation. The lesson objectives were clear and measurable, focusing on key concepts such as climate change, the greenhouse, and potential solutions. The objectives aligned well with the broader unit of the Earth's changing climate, helping students understand both causes and effects. This approach was particularly beneficial for L and IEP students as the objectives were straightforward and scaffolded. Proficient were clear, but could have been more explicitly broken down into smaller, measurable steps, especially for students with learning challenges. The focus on both causes and effects were solid, but might have benefited from additional examples or real-world scenarios, right? And then material, literally went over every component of the lesson, materials and resources.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
which one? Oh, that's ChatGPT, right?
This is ChatGPT.
Okay,
yes.
perfect.
It would do the same thing in any of them,
Okay.
regardless. So like if I used Copilot and I just took that rubric and I put it in here and I applied it in here, it would do the same thing.
Perfect.
Right?
Perfect.
At the end of the day, Carlos, it's really something that's gonna have to be what someone's comfortable with, because they're gonna, like I was saying, they're gonna tier them. You're gonna have to pay for some be free, some are gonna have more free. The one that I find, there's two that I find people in our orbit, in the education orbit, using most frequently are Poe, which was one that we've been using here a lot. I jumped today because I wanted to show you the PowerPoint generation
Yes.
right. But that one is Poe is a big one, and Magic School.
Yes.
Both. Yeah. But I they're too busy for me personally. They're very busy. There's a lot of buttons and you saw in the Poe one, there was like 82 line. It was just too many things. But again, Copilot is a little bear, right? So I've been digging ChatGPT the more I play around with the different ones. And then there'll be another one that comes out tomorrow. And then another one that comes out next week. And your students are going to develop one, I'm certain of it.
I hope so.
When they do, I hope to be invited to see it in play.
Hopefully, yes. Hopefully they create one.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is amazing. Kelly, please share with us the PowerPoint. I mean the presentation. So that way we can share with the staff at the school as soon as possible.
Yes, absolutely. I'll get that out to you as soon as that recording's done.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
David. Great job.
Yes,
And
Always
thank
a
you.
pleasure. Always
Thank you. Have a good
helpful.
night.
you too. Bye.
Thank you.